What I'd like to introduce right now maybe is this idea of women as impact investors. And I will say they are the best impact investors there are, right? They are people who understand what a collective community can do, right? The power of being in community, being together and doing things together, and the power of the individual to spark the right flames.
Hey, dear listeners, we need to let you know that Kevin and Stephanie offer investment advice through Private Advisor Group, which is a federally registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations to any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Now let's get on with the show. This is Take Back Retirement, the show that's redefining retirement for women. Retirement is an old-fashioned cultural concept. We want to reclaim the word so you can make it your own. I'm Stephanie McCullough, financial planner and founder of Sophia Financial, where our mission is to reduce women's money stress and empower them to make wise, holistic decisions so they can get back to living their best lives. Kevin Gaines is my longtime colleague with deep knowledge in the technical stuff, investments, taxes, and retirement plan rules. He's a little bit geeky and quantitative. I'm a little bit touchy-feely and qualitative. Together, through conversations and interviews, we aim to give you the information and motivation you need to move forward with confidence. We're so glad you're here. Coming to you semi-live from the beautiful West Lakes Office Park in suburban Philadelphia, this is Stephanie McCullough and Kevin Gaines of Sophia Financial and American Financial Management Group. Say hello, Kevin.
Hello, Kevin.
Today, we are talking with Missy Sue Mastel. She is a prominent financial strategist and transformational leader with over 30 years of nonprofit capacity building experience. She has degrees in accounting, international business, sustainability, and theology from Georgetown and Oxford. Missy charts her audiences and clients on a path towards ethical change that we need to make in the world without sacrificing best-in-class financial growth. She is a frequent speaker with TEDx talks and university lectures. Missy's goal is to inspire future leaders and drive transformational organizational change worldwide. Let's dive into our conversation with Missy. Missy Mastel, welcome to Take Back Retirement.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm so excited and delighted to be here.
Yeah, so let's start with this. Tell us, Missy, what you're doing these days and how you came to be doing it.
Well, first of all, I just want to say I am so excited to be speaking with people who are talking to people, in particular, women and organizations and things that may feel not so confident or comfortable managing their money, right? I'm applauding your audience as well for seeking out some good resources and some help to get into a better frame of mind about how other people are doing things and how we succeed even as we are looking to retire and are looking to move into other stages of our lives. So This is a wonderful organization. Great that you're doing this. Thank you so much for bringing this forward. It's so important. And I think particularly for women, we have a lot of hang-ups about money and a lot of hang-ups about what it means to be wealthy and what wealthy can look like. And I think so it's really important to have frank conversations about these things. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what I'm doing right now is actually sort of I can't even describe how on point it feels for me, because for years I've been working with nonprofit organizations, which is a really, to me, important part of legacy building. And for 30 years, I've advised nonprofits in doing capacity building, how to think more of themselves than society might think of them, which is a nice tie-in to people who need to learn more about money and how they can be more than they may have thought of themselves before. But recently, I started to take classes in sustainability. About 2 years ago, I started to take classes in sustainability. And I realized that the world is just not doing as well as we think it is, right? Even when we have financial wealth and what I call hypergrowth capitalism, which I think is the term of the trade. People are making money hand over fist, but we're doing it at we're plundering resources to do it. And we have a lot of people who think that that's okay and that balance can stick, but that balance doesn't stick very well. So what I've been doing recently is taking all that I've learned with nonprofits and trying to apply it to that sustainability problem. So if you're a woman or you're a mom and you're thinking about what the future is going to look like for you and for your children and for your grandchildren, we have to start thinking about the resources that we're using and the way that we're using them. The interesting thing about nonprofits, and I think and people who have been financially overlooked, right, is that they have more power than they think they do.
Ooh, say more.
Yeah. So what I've been working on is matching up organizations that actually do make a difference in the world with the people and the corporations that need that change, and creating opportunities for them to work together to actually create the changes that we need to see. I call it sustain exchange because it really is, hinge for corporations and nonprofits and impact investors who are interested in building the adaptations that we need to see in the world.
Ooh, there's so much there.
The best way to think about it is if you look at what's going on the planet, right? If you think about how people are acquiring wealth right now, this hypergrowth capitalism, there's no end that they're looking at, right? I've talked to maybe 500 CEOs and all of them say, I need to make more money so I can make a difference. But they're not really focused on what that difference is or how much money is enough, right? They're not asking themselves the big question, right? What does it mean to make a difference? What does it mean to have enough? And one of the things that we get really lost in the way the current capitalist system works is that we don't have an idea of what enough is. It's just more.
For sure.
Q3 over Q2, right? Or next year's returns better than last year's returns, right?
Yeah.
And that's exhausting.
Right.
And
literally.
Absolutely. And what I really love about people who are taking on investing and retirement planning now, and women and nonprofits, is we can ask better questions. We can say things to ourselves like, hey, what do I really want to change here, right? Is water my issue, right? Is the global south something I want to make a difference in? Do I want to affect my community, right? What's important, and more importantly than just what's important in a global, what's important to me and what's important to the people that I care about and I love, right? We think about this idea about having enough money to build these beautiful mansions on these beautiful hills, right? But if the world is burning around us, that mansion is a prison, right? We have to have balance. So we're talking to it. So what I like to think and what I'd like to introduce right now maybe is this idea of women as impact investors. And I will say they are the best impact investors there are, right? They are people who understand what a collective community can do, right? The power of being in community, being together and doing things together, and the power of the individual to spark the right flames.
So I want to pick up on a couple of things you said. One is the idea that people who have been financially overlooked have more power than they think.
Yes.
And then the pushing back on, I have to have all this wealth so I can make a difference. So are you saying that someone who maybe doesn't consider themselves wealthy per se, because wealthy always seems like, it's more than what I have, whatever level you might have.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients don't think wealthy refers to them. But are you saying that those people can make a difference even if they don't feel like they're wealthy?
Absolutely. And there's so many good ways, and they can do it without spending $1 of their own money, right?
Okay.
So one of the ways that we talk to impact investors is that they have to be asking the right questions. And asking the right questions, I don't know if you know this, but women say 21,000 words a day. Men only say on average 7,000.
What?
I know. It's true.
Whoa.
So women, if you are talking to other people who are in your circle, whether it's other women or at your lunch or whatever, use some of those 21,000 words to ask better questions about what you want and what you feel you deserve out of the society that you're living in, right? You have so many extra words. You're so much more comfortable talking. So one of the ways that we create impact in investing is by asking better questions. And you can use all the tools that you're learning here in the financial planning work that Stephanie and Kevin are doing with you to understand what those questions are. And some of those questions are the ones that you're asking yourselves, right? What does this get me, right? If I give you $500, or if I create an organization, if me and my group of women all invest $500 in your organization, what do I get out of it, right? And don't focus so much on the returns. Focus on what that organization's point B is. You want to align your values, right? So you certainly want to be able to get some return, but what you really want to do is be able to balance that return out with the impact that you want to have in the world. So you want to be able to tell the corporation and the nonprofit, whoever it is you're giving your money to, what is your impact that I am now a part of?
When you were saying that you're talking with people who want to make a difference, but they want to accumulate more first, is part of that they're thinking they want to do this, but they don't know what a successful helping of a nonprofit would look like to them. So they have to think. So they think they need more money because they really haven't pictured what success, or I don't want to use the word success, but a productive
Valuation,
contribution.
Right? Contribution is, yes. So the nonprofits that are working in the best, they have an idea of what they want things to look like, but you're going to be better suited to ask better questions with the things that you know about what you want to see in the world. If you have time to serve on a board or a committee for a nonprofit, you can add more value than just your money, right? Those opportunities help to drive those nonprofits and those nonprofits to their best results, right? If they can accurately articulate the things that they want to see in the world, then you're helping them to be better at raising more money. And one of the things that I'm working on, which I think is sort of like a no-brainer, is how corporations can use their money to help nonprofits is how corporations can help nonprofits use the money that they might invest in them to build more impact in the world. And the corporations can take that impact in as part of what they're doing in the world. So we have what we are trying to build is these partnerships between the corporations that you're investing in and the nonprofits that they might work with to build better impact. Why do we focus on corporations? Well, because they're some of the largest resource users in the world. And they're also creating the most wealth in the world. But as people, we want to see those corporations invest back in a planet that we can live on. And I'm a climate girl. That's just me. Obviously I support a whole bunch of nonprofits, but right now I'm really into climate. But there's a lot of different ways the corporations and nonprofits intersect on their values, right? Like if climate's just really easy for me to explain, because if a corporation supports a nonprofit, who's building a bicycle coalition. Let's say you have a nonprofit, it's a bicycle coalition, and that corporation is supporting that nonprofit. We're saving on commuting resources, right? Cars in traffic, all of those things that are annoying and are making our planet less livable. So it's very easy for corporations to do that. But you, as the impact investor, you're the catalyst. You're the key. You're the one that says to the corporation you're investing in, what we want to see is not just, we don't want to see crazy hyper growth returns all the time. We want to see you investing in the relationships with nonprofits. And because you're the impact investor, you can talk to both types of organizations equally. You can tell your corporations that, and you can tell the nonprofits that you're working with. Another great thing you can do is to ask the nonprofits, how are they? Every nonprofit, because of what they do, just their mission in life is to create a better planet, right? If you're working with a nonprofit whose mission is not to create a better world, then we've got a problem. But they all have something, some mission that's on point, whether it's environmental or maybe it's a social good, right? Maybe it's creating communities, maybe it's empowering women, maybe it's youth and girls and coding. They all have a mission. And each of those missions intersects with something the corporations are doing, right? And something that, and as long as you're interested in it, you can ask those nonprofits to give you impact statements to understand what they want to do in the world and bring that back to the corporation and say, we don't just want you to make better returns. We want you to make returns, but we also want you to take some of those returns and invest it in a world we want to live in, whether it's in coding or whatever.
Can we stop for a sec maybe and dissect this term impact investor?
Sure.
Because it's perhaps maybe different than people imagine. Like they might imagine, I'll just pull out a name, right? Like Melinda Gates being an impact investor because she's got billions and billions of dollars. But how could I possibly be an impact investor when I only have whatever, a few $100,000 in my retirement account?
Oh, so being an impact investor is about using your brain as much as you use. It's an equal part, brain and money, right? So when you're investing in a corporation, you're asking them questions that make them think differently. So an impact investor is an investor who believes in the impact that you have on the world.
Even if my impact is a small dollar amount.
Especially if your impact is a small dollar amount, right?
I like it.
Because Melinda Gates, where she's not actually an impact investor, frankly, Stephanie, she's a philanthropist, right? So she's not really talking to corporations much at all about what they can do.
Okay.
But you, as somebody who is looking to invest in corporations that have returns, you're someone who is interested in the balance, the return and the impact. So that's what makes you an impact investor, is that you are interested not just in returns, but in a legacy of, again, a planet or a world that you would want your children to grow up in. I was sitting talking to the legal head of a major Fortune 500 company the other day. And I said to them, they were on the phone and giving me all these reasons why they had so many shareholders and people lining up to be shareholders. And they didn't need to talk about climate and they didn't need to talk about social and governance. And they had it all on lockdown. And I said to her, I said, I hear you on what you're saying, but the fact is I'm a parent, so I can't let this conversation go. And she stopped for a second and she said, I'm a parent too. And it changed the conversation, right? When you're talking, because no longer, there's a cognitive dissonance that's happening between people who go home and they want to raise their kids and they want their kids to be nice kids and they want their kids to have purpose, right? And they want them to be contributing to the planet and what we're doing in business, right? Which is exactly the opposite. We're telling our kids, crazy things like you have to do better than your parents did. I mean, that's impossible at this point.
And do better, meaning make more
financially, make more money. Exactly.
Right. That's what we mean.
That's exactly right, Stephanie. Thank you so much. That's precisely right. We can't ask our kids to do that. We have to ask because, first of all, the planet can't support it. And B, it's an insurmountable task. It's Herculean. They can't do it. The kids today, they're worried about being exploited by corporations, right? So if you're a parent and you're investing in corporations that aren't thinking this way, then you're the catalyst. You're the one that has to make that change. You have to tell the corporations you're investing in, these are important. I don't want to be investing in corporations that are exploiting people for their work, right?
Mm-hmm.
When a corporation has, you can see the stock market actually changing now ever so often, right? It does work on the pricing and the valuations of these companies, but it's also working on what these corporations are doing to the planet and what they're coming out with in their sustainability reports and how they're treating their factories in the global south, right? In the Philippines and in China and in India. So we're seeing more and more of it. And as the younger generation, as the stewards, we are the stewards for the younger generation.
Right. Because we won't be around forever.
Yeah, exactly. And so we have to start training these corporations because we can. We have to start training these corporations to think differently about what kind of planet we want to live on and be vocal about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you push back? I'm assuming you're going to push back on when somebody says, how am I even going to get a corporation to take my call? I'm just fill in the blank. How can I make it? I'm too small to make a difference.
So that's where the nonprofits come in, right? So for your impact investing, right? I'm aware that people feel like they're just like a small cog and maybe they have a few $100 invested in a corporation or something like that. But the first thing, this is kind of let's call it a stepped process. The first thing I would do is read their sustainability report, right? As you're looking at your investments, check to see, are they doing anything you like in the world? Are they aligned with your values? So that's the first thing. And if they're not, you might find a nonprofit that is aligned with those values and might be a good partner. And one thing I can tell you is that Sustain Exchange, which is the company that we're building right now, does that. It looks for nonprofit corporate relationships that make impact sense. So I'm going to suggest if you're invested in a corporation and you don't know a good nonprofit that could help them, call me. I can find one for you. There is no corporation that can't be benefited by a nonprofit partnership and relationship. And then I guarantee the nonprofit will take your call. And you can start talking to them about what kind of impact they could have on this corporation. And then you're collectively, as we are wont to do, creating impact in that area. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you don't have to go at this alone. That's the other wonderful thing, is you don't have to do this impact investing alone. There are a ton of other impact investors who are looking at nonprofits and looking at collective investments. If you're in a mutual fund, you might find a mutual fund that does impact. One of their offerings might be an impact investing offering. Mm-hmm. You could do that, align yourself with, and then you get to ask a lot of questions, right? Of your financial planners. Ask them, hey, what kind of impact are we having here? Are we reducing child labor law work? Are we helping to create more agricultural sustainability, right? Here's the thing about the climate and everything else. We actually know the right thing to do, right? There's we're not waiting for the answers on how to build a better world. We have them, right? We just need to decide to make them a priority. And nothing says more about your priorities than where you put your money and your time.
Okay, now you just mentioned time, and something that you and I just spoke about briefly before we went on the air is, okay, if our listeners are thinking towards quote unquote retirement, whatever that means to them, a next phase of life, maybe could be stepping away from a corporate job and not working, could be just some other type of reinvention, but it's not only about how you're going to line up your money, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I believe that here's the thing about your investors and all of the people who are listening. Whatever you've done at work, it may have been brilliant and wonderful, but now you can take all of that learning, all of the things that you've learned, and apply it for the good of the next generation and the future. And a great place to do that is in nonprofit work, right? Those people really need you. If you worked in legal or finance, these you can sit on a nonprofit board. They really need your help. If you worked in market, I mean, it doesn't even matter what you did, but I can think of thousands of nonprofit organizations that can use your expertise just as it is, right? And for whom, some people even go and work in nonprofits, right? They become EDs or something like that. Also an option to take all of that collective learning. You now can apply it to all the good you want to do in the world. And frankly, when we talk about eulogies and things, these are the things that people talk about, is those impacts that you've had almost after you've retired at work.
Yeah, your legacy.
We want your legacy to be something that is meaningful and constructive. And imagine what would happen if each of us just found something meaningful to us and made it the best it could be.
And it's not just good for the world, right? It's good for us as let's face it, we're all aging every day, right? And staying connected, having something that's meaningful, feeling like we're having an impact is important for health and longevity too.
Exactly. And imagine if you take a lot of people who have felt a little overlooked and a lot of different organizations who have felt a little overlooked, like these nonprofits, just like some investors, they don't have any idea what their power is, right? The nonprofits don't have any idea that they're holding the quality of the future of our existence, of the whole civilization in their hands. And you can help them unlock that by asking better questions, by integrating with their purpose and helping them to be better because of all the things that you can add, right? That's where, if we want to look at Star Trek utopia world, that's what gets us there. It's a lot of people are talking about things like progress, but AI is not progress, right? It's replacement. We're just, instead of doing one thing one way, we're doing something another way. Progress requires us to look at what point B looks like. And I'm just going to say it again. Point B is not you living in a giant mansion while the world burns around you, right? Progress is where we all have to get progress, means collectively we get someplace together, right? And I love those pictures of the buildings that are all windows with the grass hyper environment stuff growing out of them, beautiful integrated nature with our needs for civilization, right? The arts communities, all of those things, that's progress. Not this idea of capitalism to its whatever the end point might end up being. So those are your options. That's what you can do with retirement that gives you power to create the world you want to live in and the world you want to pass on.
Missy, I want to go back to something you said in the very beginning, and I don't remember how you described it, and I apologize, but I wanted to hear more about this. You said, in the beginning, you were helping nonprofits figure out how to be, this is my phrasing, more than they think they are, or something to that effect. How did you do that? What are you talking about? Where are the nonprofits not thinking? I want to hear more about this.
Sure. So think about who starts nonprofit, right? Nonprofits are people who start missions. They see a problem in the world and they want to solve it. And that's great. And what they will do is they will bring together groups of friends and they will create an organization that does programmatic work. But nonprofits need so much more than just programmatic work. They need to understand finance. They need to understand the legal ramifications of what they do. They need to understand taxes. They need to understand development. They need to understand marketing. How do we bring in funds to allow our programs to happen? So it used to be that people would come into nonprofits and donate their time and their money to bring those resources, those capacities into play for a nonprofit on a worthy mission. But people feel strapped these days. They don't do it as much. So we need to find other creative ways of building those capacities, right? One of them, and one of the things that I recommend is when you're looking at retirement, and when you're thinking about retirement, that's an excellent place to help a nonprofit capacity build. You can add those resources, whether, again, like you're some kind of professional. So retirees are great resources for nonprofits because actually better resources than not because they're already fully trained in what they do.
Right. Yeah, true.
So I have one nonprofit, which is really wonderful. So if you think about these people, they take retired doctors and they put them on the phone with community health clinics in urban and rural environments.
Wow.
So that these doctors who are overworked in these incredibly difficult environments have resources, mentors that they can reach out to when they need a diagnosis or they need some assistance in, treating something. They have doctors on call who have been through it all and seen it all. And these doctors continue to feel like they have an end of life existence, right? Making a difference in their world. And it's not just doctors. That's just a really easy example. Any one of you can do that, the expertise and the life skills that you've built over time. But when we talk about, and by doing that and helping the nonprofits understand how much they value, when we feel really small, I think one of the most empowering things we can do is remind someone else how important they are. So if you're feeling like you're not making much of an impact or you can't make much of an impact, go talk to a nonprofit and help them be the best organization that they can be. And when they get there, when those nonprofits get to that space, they can then go talk to the corporation and say, we're a valuable partner to the things you need to get done in the world, right? We're valuable people in terms of helping you create the world that we all want to see. And you're doing it together and collectively. So, what's better than that?
That's nice. And then let's face it, ageism is real too. So even if we might imagine we want to work to a certain age, our employers might not agree. So I've known multiple people who have been kind of out on their ears way before they expected to. Finding meaning and a way to contribute in the nonprofit world is an option there too.
Absolutely. And again, so many interesting opportunities. You obviously there's a lot of different things that you might be interested in. We all sort of had some experience working with nonprofits throughout our lives. Communities are basically built by nonprofits, and many communities are nonprofits. So we all have had we all understand how uplifting those things are. COVID sort of made things a little weird because we stopped working in community.
Right.
But that wasn't evolution. That was a blip, right? I think a lot of people see that as sort of a post-COVID world, but I don't believe in a post-COVID world. I believe COVID was a blip and we have to get back to community, right? The things we do, we're always stronger together. Just one more thing. When we talk about we're all in this together, sometimes people can feel lost in those kinds of environments, right? But the truth is there's always that feeling that you are striving for, right? Where your impact, right? Financial, time, resources, your brain matters. And so don't forget the relationship between you and the person next to you, right? When I talk about building a community and building a community organization, it's bigger than two of you. But at the end of the day, you're still in conversation with another person or another group of people that is important to you, right? You're building your community, not just any community.
Right. It's okay to be selfish when you think about that a little bit, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah. Oh, Missy, thank you. We could obviously talk about these things for a long time. Where can people who are interested go to learn more about the work you're doing or the ideas that you're sharing?
Sure. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. What a great way to wake up on a Friday. So please come out to www.impactnonprofits.co and come see some of the things that we're doing, particularly if you are already involved with a nonprofit or if we have a lot of resources that can help them build better capacities and start their conversations with corporations so that they can get more support. Also, you can reach me on my LinkedIn. So please look me up, Missy Sue Mastel on LinkedIn. We do a lot of publishing there, sort of on ideas and things that you can bring to the table. And don't ever, I think it was Jane Goodall who said, don't ever underestimate the power of a small group of people to make changes. It's the only thing that ever works.
Right.
I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Yeah.
But if you are feeling that you are not powerful, you are wrong. You're very powerful, just in and of yourself, and in community, it's just multiplied.
Oh, I love that message. What a way to end. Thank you, Missy, for being with us.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, Kevin. What a pleasure. And thanks again for everything you're doing for the investing community and for people who really need these resources. It's important. It's important work.
Awesome. We agree.
Great.
So, Kevin, Missy is such an interesting person because she brings this nonprofit experience and now to the idea of being an investor and how those two things can go together, the corporate nonprofit partnership. But then what I appreciate is what is our role as little individuals here who are not corporate leaders necessarily and not nonprofit leaders, but what can we do both with our dollars and with our time? And I love how she was talking about asking better questions, right? I think when we sometimes feel like, well, what the heck can I as one person do? I think I would go back to that idea of asking better questions. Who can you ask these questions of? How can you use some of your 21,000 words a day to start talking about this stuff? That's where everything begins.
Yeah. And frankly, that's one of the more intriguing things or interesting things I get out of this podcast, to be selfish, is talking with people who, when you see the intro sentence to their bio, it's like, I don't know how this is really going to connect with what we're doing. But then we have this conversation and it's, oh, this is how it works for individuals. We're not talking, this podcast isn't built for corporations or for nonprofits or for groups of any sort. We talk to the individuals. But one of the biggest things that we always hear is well, it's hard to make an impact if you're just one person and whatever. The beauty of talking with people like Missy is she can give us ideas and explain this is how you can make a difference, not some theoretical, well, you just call up the investor relations department and insist. It's no, that BS doesn't work. All right, let's just be honest. That's not going to go anywhere. But working the way up, so to speak, talking with the nonprofits, you're going to have a little bit more leverage with them. And you're going to give them support in what they're going to be talking with these corporations. So that is a realistic way of how to affect change.
And even just showing up at your local community, whether it's the food bank or some organization that's working on the cause that's near and dear to your heart and saying, here's who I am, how can I help? Right? That's a big thing. But then I also like that she pushed back on the misconception of, well, I'm not super rich, therefore my dollars can't make a difference, right? Yes, even as a relatively smaller investor, you can make a difference. And we will point back to our episodes on sustainable investing, impact investing, socially responsible investing. It has all different kinds of names, right? Even just choosing the mutual funds, for example, that are working on issues that are important to you. I was just reading an impact report of one mutual fund company today of the advocacy efforts they've been making and the differences they have made with big companies. Okay, maybe I can't do it with my couple $1,000s, but if I'm investing in that fund, I'm giving more weight to their voice when they're raising the issues. So there's definitely ways that we can all be thinking more strategically about how we're using our dollars and our time.
That's it. There it is in a nutshell. Yeah, finding ways to leverage, not necessarily going straight to the top, but working with these nonprofits, these collective investments, whether it's a mutual fund or private investments or something like that. There's different ways you can go about it, so to speak. There's not one way to climb a mountain. There's a couple paths. Some are easier than others. Same thing here. It's different ways to make an impact. Just look for the avenue that works best for you, where you can feel that you're making the biggest contribution.
Well, and one of the things Missy had told me before was that she feels women are the best impact investors. And I think it's partly because we do tend to look for ways that we can act as a collective instead of just as one person. Dear listeners, we hope you enjoyed our conversation today. We'll talk to you next time. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from her.
Be sure to subscribe to the show and please share it with your friends. Show notes and more information available at takebackretirement.com. Huge thanks for the original music by the one and only Raymond Loewy through New Math in New York. See you next time.
Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group, American Financial Management Group, and Sophia Financial are separate entities. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual security. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. This information is not intended to be a substitute for individualized tax advice. Please consult your tax advisor regarding your specific situation.